starting Be'ez Hashem Simon Tzadik Hey and haGuela, and this is coming to answer the question that we brought from the pasuk in Yeshaya, Ki savoy lerois panai, mi vikesh dois biyadchem mois chatzerai. That Hashem says, don't come and do aliyah regel if you have, according to Rashi, if you have shloi lishma, and according to the Radak, if you have other averis. And the question is, why? Why shouldn't you do a mitzvah? Just because you have other averis, or you have a kavanah that's not completely on the highest level, why shouldn't you do a mitzvah? So he says, Oid F Shaloimar. We could answer this question in a different way. Al Pi Mad Isa Meseches Yivamas Vavam Amad Aleph. Gemara in Yivamas. Yachol Yisyare Adam Mina Mikdash. You might think that a person should be afraid of the base of Mikdash. Talmud Loimar Es Shabbos Osai Tishmoiru V'es Mikdashi Tira'u. Ma Shmira Hu Amura B'Shabbos. So there's a pasuk. It says in the end of Bahar, it says, "Fear my base of Mikdash and keep my Shabbos." So it sounds like the literal translation would be fear the actual base of Mikdash. So the Gemara says, no. You might think that you should actually fear the building, the base of Mikdash. No. We learn it out from the Hekesh, from the two things side by side in the pasuk. Ma Shmira Hu Amura B'Shabbos. Just like by Shabbos it says, keep Shabbos. On the same pasuk, Loi mi Shabbos ato misyare. You're not afraid of the day Shabbos. El mi misha hizir al Shabbos. You're afraid of Hashem who commanded you about Shabbos. So af moira hu amura b'mikdash. Here too, when it says fear the base of Mikdash, Loi mi mikdash ato misyare. You're not fearing the base of Mikdash. El mi misha hizir al Mikdash. You're fearing Hashem who commanded regarding the base of Mikdash. And the Gemara goes on to say that there are halachas that are involved in this. One of the dinim of Moyer Mikdash, I think, is that you can't go in with shoes, and you can't have your money belt hanging on your side, and you can't have dust on your feet. Certain things that are respectful, you have to observe when you come into the base of Mikdash. Okay. And you can't make it a kapandria, you can't make it a shortcut to go from one side to the other, which applies today in shul, by the way, right? You can't make a shul shortcut. All right. The Kos V'Shama Tosfos. Tosfos says on this Gemara Yivamas, the Gabi Aviv Lo Hutzrach Loimer Kain. Tosfos asks, what about by the pasuk of Ish Imoy V'Aviv Tirau? Every man must fear his mother and father. And then it says V'Shab Soisai Tishmoru, and fear and keep my Shabbos. So let the Gemara say the same drasha there. You might think you should fear your father. No, fear the one who commanded on your father. Make the same drasha there. So Tosfos answers, the pshita shelo yishtachav Eloi l'shem Elohus. It's pashut that no one's going to bow down to his father and make him into a god. Vol gabe hamikdash itzrich. But by the base of Mikdash there was really a havamina like that. Mishum dahavi davar shabi kedusha, because the base of Mikdash is a holy thing. So it really does have kedusha. So you might think that you would actually bow down to it, make it into a religious object. Ad kan Tosfos. So therefore, the Gemara tells you, no, this is the drasha. Learn it out from Shabbos that you don't do that. Very interesting shtickle of Tosfos here. Tosfos interprets the Gemara. I mean, if I didn't have Tosfos, I don't know if I would even know what the Gemara meant by Loim Yachol Yisyare Adam Mikdash. I think you're afraid of the Mikdash. What does it mean afraid? Afraid of it in what way? Tosfos is explaining. He's saying it means afraid of it in terms of like making a avodah zarah out of it. Like in the other religions, they made their house of worship into an actual avodah zarah. It says Mishtachav Elabayis. There's a Gemara about bowing to a building. The building is considered avodah zarah. So Torah is teaching you, no, don't have an avodah zarah. Don't even have the base of Mikdash as your avodah zarah. What is this going to have to do with us? Just to think ahead. Zionism, they don't believe in God. They don't believe in Hashem, right? Or if they do, they don't really believe in Him the right way, right? With the Gimel Ikrim. So, what exactly is this thing of the base of Mikdash and the holy place? You know,
that they're fearing it, but they're not fearing Hashem.
Exactly. It's like they're fearing a physical thing. The whole Eretz Yisrael is really like that. The whole Eretz Yisrael is a holy place in Judaism, and they get that. The Zionists get that it's a holy place. Oh yeah, Holy land, Eretz HaKodesh, Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh. They get that, right? But how could you get that without getting the whole rest of Judaism? The pshat is because that becomes their avodah zarah.
They're missing that foundation.
Yeah, it's like the vort from Rav Hutner that v'hishtachavisa mohem and the Kriya Shema, when it says v'startim v'avadim alim acherim, it means you bow down to the earth and you serve the earth. Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro in his book talks about how the Zionists made the earth into an idol. They said the earth absorbed the blood of the Zionist fighters, and now it's like it's a holy thing, but holy not in the sense of Yiddishkeit, holy in the sense of like it's holy on its own. So basically, let's continue here for a minute. Al Kapanim, Mevur time of the Kra. Now we see the reason of the pasuk. The Moira Mikdash Tzarach Liyos Lishma. Because he was looking for that, right? Before in this past simon, he said, where do you ever see that the mitzvah has to be lishma? Every mitzvah could be lishma, it could be shalom lishma. It's just a higher madrega. It's not like possible if it's shalom lishma. Teretz says, no, you see over here that fearing the base of mikdash shalom lishma is taka bad. Yeah. Why is it bad? Because it's making it an end in itself. That's what shalom lishma means. Okay? So he says, you have to do lishma. You have to fear Hashem, who commanded you about the base of mikdash, not fear the building. Because it's a holy place. The Torah was afraid. Maybe people are going to make it into an avodah zarah. Therefore, the Torah says, no, you have to fear it lishma, meaning l'shem Hashem. Now we could already darshan the reason for the pasuk because it's written right here. Don't fear the base of mikdash, fear Hashem. Shahari Gilsa Torah. The Torah was revealing here time of the Krah, the reason of the mitzvah. The hekesh shehum yid gimel midas shatorah nidrash cohen. It's comparing it two things in one pasuk. It's called a hekesh, and that's something we're allowed to do. So now we understand the pasuk that we started out with. Who asked you to come and trample the courtyards? Because you're not with me, you're not lishma. What's wrong with that? The answer is shahari mevur beferish the boy lishma dafka. You have to have lishma, otherwise it's a avodah zarah. Gam yesh lahavin hadvarim al pi pshutam. Okay, so that's number one explanation. Really, on this kasha so far, let's just keep track. We had, because there are going to be a lot of terutzim. In Tzadik Dal, you had one, which is the thing about ad shchakim amitecha. Tzadik Hey, so far we had one. Now we're going to number 3. Gam yesh lahavin advarim al pi pshutam. We have to understand this simply, without any drashas of Chazal. De'im hizhira haTorah hakdosh al moira mikdash, u'mimi shehizir al mikdash. The Torah commanded us to have moira mikdash, to fear Hashem who commanded on the mikdash. U'moira hu ikar balev. The whole moira, what does moira mean? Moira, fear, means something you have in your heart. Even though Chazal darshan that there is a maisa you're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to wear shoes and dust on your feet and all that, but mashahu hepech mi moira, those are things that like express the opposite of fear. If he doesn't have the fear in his own heart, even if he follows all the rules and he doesn't wear the shoes, but in his heart he doesn't have the moira, then eino begetter moira. That's not moira. Moira be'ikar is in the heart. It's just that these physical things are an expression of it. You see that you have to come with yirah shamayim. When you have to come without shoes and this and that, that's just a siman to show that you have to come with yirah shamayim. So here, these people who go on the har bayis, who are Sharon, people like that, that's not yirah shamayim. Move on hetev. A lot of the other people also. Move on hetev divrei Rashi zal achrei she'ein levavchem shalem imi. Now we understand what Rashi means. Your heart's not with me, meaning you're not lishma, you're not really moira. You don't have a fear of Hashem. You just want to do it for your own reasons. So it's a contradiction to the whole concept of moira mikdash. Okay, that's number 3. Oidef shalomer, another teretz. The bir hapasuk hanal. To explain this pasuk, and to explain the Rashi. Kanal. We'll answer up now what we asked. Hanal, that we asked before. So the question was, how could Chazal tell you not to do a mitzvah? Or how could the pasuk tell you not to do a mitzvah? Just because you're not on the highest madrega. Teretz is, we find such a thing elsewhere. We find such a thing, v'dugmasa, a similar thing, b'mitzvah tefillin. By the mitzvah of tefillin. Earlier in the Sefer, the Rebbe spoke about tefillin.
Yes.
The afagav deloy mefurish time of the krah, the mitzvahs and rak b'guf naki. Chazal say this thing that the tefillin have to be with a clean body. But that's not in the Torah anywhere. The Torah just says, it doesn't say anything about having a guf naki. There's no time of the krah explained. Uva machshava tahora, that you have to have a pure mind when you're putting them on. V'zaka, pure, and upanu mi machshava ra, free of any bad thoughts. V'tayvas nashim, and taiva for women. It doesn't say that in the pasuk. But afal pichein hechlitu chazal. Chazal still say v'apoiskim b'pshitis. They say clearly the im eina yachali shamer atzmoi. If you can't hold yourself back, sheyehei guf naki, that you can have your body clean, al kaponim be'oidan alav, at least for the time that it takes to put on tefillin and say Kriya Shema, whatever, daven. Lo yanichem, you shouldn't put on tefillin. We brought this before. The chein pasuk haramazal. There are more paskins la'alacha. The im ef shaloi beloy hir hurim. If you can't hold back from having bad thoughts, lo yanichem, you shouldn't put on tefillin. The cost of a beis Yosef b'shem Mordechai, b'orchaim siman lamed zayin. The choyli me'ayim lo yanichem. It's not only bad thoughts. It's also people who have a sickness of the intestines, or people who have a lot of gas. They shouldn't put on tefillin. It's not talking about the p'tur of mitztayr, someone who's sick and is not able to fulfill the mitzvah. He's able to. He could put them on. He's not going to think about his sickness. He'll think about the tefillin. Such a person should not put on tefillin. Choyl me'ayim. So where did Chazal learn this from? So he's assuming Chazal didn't have a Mesorah that you needed guf naki. That's what I always thought. But he's assuming no, Chazal came up with this on their own. So how do they know that there's such a thing? There's a mitzvah deraisa to put on tefillin. They're telling you don't do it. Right? And b'makom she'ein mefurish time with the krah, it doesn't say the reason. So how did they have a right to darshan the reason? It's not even mentioned a remes to this, that you're potter. You have to say the ichriu Chazal b'das Torah kedusha. Chazal with their das Torah were able to decide shebechol davar shebikdusha, when you have a holy mitzvah like tefillin, tzarich she'yanasa mitzvasan be'oifen shelo yachil hakodesh. You have to do it only in a way that you're not going to violate the holiness of the mitzvah, of the object. V'chazilin dechol hecha. We see from this case of tefillin, that all we can generalize. That she'efshar la'asos mitzvahs and kiyum b'derech zilzal, any place where you can't do a mitzvah without desecrating the mitzvah, chas v'shalom, could go in beloy guf naki, or b'yirhur aveira, that he has not clean body, or he has thoughts, patru chazal b'kiyum mitzvah saseh. Chazal exempted this person from doing the mitzvah. V'lo yoid ela she'aveira hu b'yadai. It's not only not a mitzvah, it's actually an aveira. L'aniach tefillin b'chai gach. So once we see that over there, we can extrapolate to here. Kein zeb mikdash shehu mekudash yoser bevadai. It's even more holy than tefillin. Bevadai chisar and gadol who, therefore it's definitely bad. V'zilzul kedusha. It's definitely a desecration of the kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash. Lavoi sham b'machshavos lo toheres, to come there with bad thoughts. V'yuvan bazeh. You understand now. Maimer Anavi. Now we understand the pasuk. So he's saying now Rashi doesn't mean shalom lishma. Rashi means that you don't have the best thoughts. It says you'll come before me the machshavos loy metuharos. You'll come with thoughts that are not purified. If you come this way, it's a desecration of the Beis Hamikdash. It's an insult to this place. It's not considered a mitzvah. V'zeu shekasa v'radak. That's what the radak means. Ein zeh kavod ala bizayin. Doesn't mean the purpose of the mitzvah is to honor Hashem. It means that when you come in this way, you're not only not honoring Hashem, you're actually doing the opposite. So the Zionist coming into the Kaisel is a desecration of the place. So this is so far the fourth teretz on this question, right? Ad shchakim, fearing the Beis Mikdash for the sake of avodah zarah, like fearing the actual object. Not having moyer mikdash in your heart, and this fourth thing is that every mitzvah, not only Beis Mikdash but tefillin also, is the same way.